Professor. Thank you for laying out this framework. I think it's really helpful. The issue that I had with it, though, it seems that there's maybe an element of ethnicity, demographics, and socioeconomics that might be missing. And this sort of goes to your comment on the malcontent of religious people. Well, if you think about that in terms of a socioeconomic standpoint, it might be that lower income communities around the world might be the sort of more malcontents of religion. I'd like your comment on that. And then if you think about sort of the smorgasbord, going back to the smorgasbord religiosity, it seems like only the luxury of the Western world to be able to pick and choose their religion, right? I mean, that's sort of an element that seems to be missing here. So I guess I'd just like your comment on sort of where we can fit each of these strands in terms of socioeconomics and the ethnicity part of it too.
Yeah. I think in terms of socioeconomics, I think I gestured toward it when I said a smorgasbord religiosity in the West and in a certain layer in the rest of the well, that's too. It's not quite accurate, but certainly you have to have a certain. You have to be of certain socioeconomic status simply to make your point in order to engage in this kind of self-creation of religious identity for yourself, a certain sense of power, a certain sense of agency, and so forth. In terms of lower level and socioeconomic lower level in terms of embrace of religion, it's true and you would expect it. But you know, the book that two editors of economists have written by the title "God is Back," which is worth reading, flipping through, begins with a reading group of highly educated, kind of Bible reading group of highly educated folks in Shanghai. And there, in many other situations, you have highly educated young professionals who are embracing religion. Look at New York as a good example. If you look at somebody like Tim Keller, one of the New York preachers, right? If you go to his church, average education is master's degree, right? And average age, 35. Right, and it's a rather influential and huge church, and it's replicated in many of the metropoli. Is that plural of metropolis? Yes, it is. Thank you. London, certainly there are churches of this sort, and I think it's true also of other religions.
Sure, but I would say that those communities they're not feeling left out from globalization, are they?
Well, what they might be feeling is disorientation. They may not be feeling a sense of material well-being, not feeling satisfied with their material conditions, but they may be feeling that they don't have sufficient means to organize the meaning of their lives, sufficient strength to pursue the life as they want to pursue the life, what they find valuable, and maybe finding in faith resources of that sort.
Disorientation is an interesting word because you have, and this goes to the ethnicity question that I had. If you look at the Europe paradigm, you have pretty homogenous populations in Europe historically. Yeah. And whereas you go to the United States and it's a pluralistic society, therefore maybe people are more religious because they have an other to identify themselves against or define themselves against. And so there's got to be that element in this, doesn't it?
But remember, the Europeans, homogeneous as they may be, were quite glad to kill one another over religion over a long period, a very long historical period. And there was a kind of implicit peace treaty that went along with the nation state and democratization. I was going to say that the Pew Charitable Trust research bears on the question of the malcontent or people who feel left out of globalization being more religious. There is a middle strength correlation between passing through the development and demographic transitions and the decline of average percentage of religiosity. And within countries at all levels, there is an at least mild correlation between lower economic status and greater expressed commitment to religion. Pew had, they're producing a huge number of data sets on this stuff. And I think much of what you're saying is independent of the very fine-grained empirics. And the last point, your observation about higher income people having a sense of disorientation to which faith may be a response, I think that's a very important point. And there is a sense, many people I think have a sense of emptiness in the relativism that goes with great affluence and the smorgasbordization of beliefs.